Alright then. Welcome back everyone to a stream not exactly when I'd say it would be. A bit later, unfortunately something came in between. Today we have something a bit different, something we haven't done in a while, an art stream. I am finally going to get myself a schedule. Well, and with get I mean create, because I need to do everything myself, of course. The old artist's curse and blessing. So, as you can see here, I've originally started sketching out a design on a, what's the word, college notebook? Which I have then scanned and am now using as a template to do the whole thing in vector graphics. My current intention is I probably want to do the basic shape in vector graphics and then paint over it with, what's the word, raster graphics? And you know, regular digital art. So yeah, but first we have to do a bit of the old vector graphics stuff, which, I don't know, that might be a bit boring to watch, so I may mix it up a bit. You'll notice there's quite a bit of stuff blank here at the top of the page. My plan is to have all the relevant schedule information here in those convenient 7 little archways, of course inspired by, hold on, let me see, the lighthouse here on the big eye graphic that I made not too long ago. So yeah, you can see at the lighthouse the arches, and then if I pop this back in here, is it getting recorded? There we go. Mirroring that basically. It's a bit hard to see, but you know, if you squint and look closely, you can kind of see it here. Yeah. So basically that's, those are the lines I'm following. Actually, might make those a bit easier to see for the benefit of you viewers. Hold on. Add a filter mask. And it's, unfortunately, this image file, this Krita file was created directly from the scanned page, which means it's a pretty massive resolution. So any operation that affects the whole image, unfortunately, takes a little while. Updating, come on. Okay. I may need to resize at some point, but that'll bring its own issues with it. Actually, yeah, I'm realizing now you can't see the extra pop-ups I might have here, so maybe I should change the capture method. It's fine. Hold on. Ugh. No, that's not what I wanted. This one, right. No, not actually. Color adjustment, was it this one? Yes, this one, okay. So, if I fiddle around with this, are the lines going to become any more visible? Yes and no. Okay. Hold on. Something like this, maybe. Maybe. This will take a lot of fiddling. Okay. Yeah, something like this, maybe. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, slowly they're becoming more visible. I apologize for not being able to really share what I'm currently fiddling with. It's the input-output curves of the brightness. Trying to improve the contrast that way a little bit. Hold on, the filter mask. Oh yeah, that does make it a little bit more visible. It's not perfect, but better than nothing. But it does crush. Hold on. Yeah, it does crush quite a bit of detail here in the. I really. Now let's just keep it like this for the moment. Maybe I'll work something a bit more fine-tuned out later, but for now, this should suffice. So yeah, first of all, first order of business, I just want to finish some of the basic geometry here with the arches. The stairs are basically all done already, which is nice. Okay. Are you gonna play nice? There we go. Of course this doesn't want to snap. Ugh. Wait, have I? Yeah, okay, I have enabled snap to grid, then why is it not snapping? Okay, there we go. Wonderful. And now this. Oh, I have to readjust myself a little bit because, of course, since this is art, I'm of course doing it on my graphic tablet, which is situated under my regular monitor, so my stance is quite a bit different than usual when I stream usually. Quite a bit more shrimp-like, perhaps, and also a bit unusual when it comes to the microphone. Hold on, can I adjust you without you collapsing and quite possibly killing me? Who knows? Apparently so. And this, and hold on. This to where? To here, yes. This to here. Ta-da. I do kind of like, it might not be the most riveting viewing experience, but I do like working in vector graphics. It's all very orderly and easy to oversee. Okay. And now... yeah, right. I need to trim these down a bit. Tool options, and then... like so, convert to path, select this thing, delete it, select this thing. Nope, that's not the right thing. There we go. Break at segment. Wonderful. Then this big one. Oh, click it again. There we go. Convert to path. Oh yeah, I'm also noticing my avatar is currently obscuring the interface somewhat, so let me actually put myself down at the usual spot before we had to relocate because of Book of Hours' peculiar UI. Back here, down beneath the chat. Alright, and delete this one. Break it segment. Yes, perfect. And then, yeah, of course, these right here. Convert to path. bracket segment. Convert to path. Brackets. Oh, no. Bracket segment, there we go. Alright, this is coming along nicely. That one we can just obscure, so we don't really need to break it down. And now here, I have to... I can't exactly tell, I think I forgot to sketch it in, where the thing is supposed to begin. It's, what is this? 5 grid spaces beneath the thingy. So that would be here. Yes. Okay. Like so. And oh yeah, also like so. For explanation, the dashed line here is basically what I'm using as a preview of the viewport. Maybe I should color this in a bit to indicate that basically I'm creating this is basically the size to which it's going to be cut down in the end. I'm just creating myself a little bit of bit of a margin at the sides that isn't going to be visible in the final product for stuff like this, as you've just seen. But to avoid any confusion, I should probably color in the viewport a bit. Hold on. Select it, and then tool options here. Here we go. Yeah, like that. Very good, very nice. And then that also makes it easier for me to tell where I may be overlooking some things, like here. But that's not in the viewport. I should, speaking of, I should lock that thing. So, here. Alright, I think that's the basic shapes of the arcs down. And then the later embellishments I think I'm going to add another time. For now, instead, it's time to create not a vector layer, but a regular one. And time to devote some thought to what to put up here, yes, in the empty room, since it is customary for obvious reasons to have some kind of artwork accompanying a schedule. I thought I'd do something similar, but just, you know, have it on top to keep this whole, like, lighthouse sort of style. I should probably explain, it's a bit visible here, but the idea is basically that you have Monday here, Tuesday here, Wednesday here, but not Friday. What am I thinking? Thursday here, then Friday here. So basically following the movement of the stairs downwards. So it starts off left to right and then switches back to from right to left. Friday, Saturday, and then here at the bottom, Sunday. And to basically, hold on, let me create a new layer here for the background, just to okay, that's a bit stark. Hold on. The idea is to have this basically black and then in white overlaid back here. So I guess I should probably make the text here white to illustrate my point. Hold on. Ugh. There we go. So Sunday, and then here the number of the date. You can tell I made this last week. And then down here, whatever activity or lack thereof, also in white, of course, since it's black. The archway itself is in black. I should probably pull up... I'm sure I have it here somewhere. The reference image I'm working off of. Creative, where is that thing? There it is. Reference image. Ah, there we go. Perfect. Maybe a bit big, but how do I... Was there a way to crop reference images in Krita? I keep forgetting that. Was there? Well, if there isn't, we'll just put this here to the side. And yes, here now you can see the arches I'm referencing here, and then here. And yeah, the idea is basically to have the black arches, inside the white architecture, and then in white text inside those black arches will be the relevant information. It's a bit of an unusual structure for a schedule, but I suppose that's also kind of the point. I do like unusual. But yeah, I hope it's not too confusing, but with the date numbers and the week numbers, it should be understandable. A second concern, it's not exactly the most efficient use of space, but you could do worse. You can do worse. Maybe if I... Yeah, that is actually something to consider. It is a very inefficient use of space. Maybe if I make the pillars in between the archways somewhat narrower, but that wouldn't look as great, I think. I do like the wide pillars. Or, I mean, they're already pretty narrow for pillars, but making them even narrower wouldn't look very good. Actually, hold on, let me drink something. Alright, but back to my original point. The thing I'm currently trying to figure out is what exactly I want to... Oh, this is still on black. No, there we go. What I want to put in this area. Some kind of illustration, only what is the question. I'm thinking... So, if we look at this... We could have something like a spire here. Something of that sort. And then sort of wrapped around that. Hold on. Trying to think about this. No, it would have to be... the other way around. Wrapped around like so. Then basically here my character, so this would be the mask shattering outward into this direction. Now that's not very... I'm trying to think how to best do this. I should probably hold on. Let me erase this away and then create a new layer. So that way I can just draw something and then delete it all at once without deleting all of this. Hold on. I want to kind of have... My idea was to have kind of an image of my character resting at the top that's kind of reaching down into the structure of the lighthouse, so to speak. But how would I do that? I have a vague image in my head, but it's not clear enough to clearly put on the paper yet, or I guess digital paper. Hold on. How would I... So if this is the head, I want to... Part of me is tempted to just have the head looking straight down, like so, but something symmetrical like this usually doesn't make for a very dynamic image, so somewhat to the side is usually more interesting. But maybe just slightly to the side, like so maybe. And then looking down at the schedule. Since of course that's kind of where we want to direct the eye. So if we have a character in the scene that's also looking downwards, that's a good way. Since we are drawn to eyes, as humans psychologically, we are first drawn to eyes if there's eyes in an image, and then we usually tend to follow, if we look at an eye, we usually tend to follow the direction that eye is looking to where we're looking next. So that's a neat trick if you ever want to control how an observer looks at a piece of art, which is very important, believe me. Part of a good composition is always directing where the viewer looks in what order. So yeah, if this is like the mask, and then of course, one benefit of streaming this, if I want to reference image of myself, I can just look at the stream preview, and there I am. So there's the shattered part of the mask, which would of course mean that this eye is displaced somewhat. No, hold on, this is of course too big at the moment. Like so, yes. Very good, I think now we're getting somewhere. And then many eyes. Eyes upon eyes upon eyes. And then here, the mouth. And then, hold on. Yeah, something like this. Obviously, all still very, very rough, but... yeah, something like so. And then... Hold on. So basically, if I have two hands, that the idea is to have them kind of perch up against the architecture. Yeah, something more along the lines of this. Yeah, something like this maybe. Yeah, something along these lines is I think what I was originally thinking. I should also, this is maybe not the correct avenue, but I have also noticed I kind of want to revamp my design slightly, since I do actually really like, hold on, where's a reference image? Oh. Here, and then, oh yeah, there we go. Here, if you're watching this on YouTube, this should be pretty familiar from the thumbnails of last few streams, or if you've seen my work on Twitter. So this version, of course, following the stream thumbnail for Book of Hours, following, of course, the key art, the main menu art of Book of Hours. And you'll notice if we compare this to, say, hold on, where's, there we go. If we compare this to, say, these are all wildly different sizes. I need to, at some point I need to look into that. If you'll compare, this is a pretty different design, but I kind of like this more, let's say a bit less over the top design here. So to have the body be a bit more solid, a bit less skeletal, a bit less sharp, a bit more cohesive. I think it adds a lot of, it makes the design less noisy, and it also adds, it makes it, I guess, in a sense more mysterious, since if the, you know, shadow part of it is bigger, it obscures more, there's more intrigue there, more mystery. I'm noticing my voice is really hoarse today. Probably shouldn't stream for too long, but that's also the intention, so no worries there. Yeah, so I think going forward, I want to orient my design more a bit around this version here. With maybe, I was thinking adding a few eyes here and there on the main body as well, for a little bit more detail. But other than that, yeah, straying away a bit from this skeletal design, going more to this silhouette kind of design, type of design. You'll see, of course, here there's also still the skeletal stuff here with the arms. So, you know, obviously a blend of silhouette and skeleton. But yeah, something like that. Okay. I think, hold on. Yeah, this is on its separate layer. I'm gonna work on this a little bit more, and then once I think it's sufficiently worked out, I'm gonna explore some alternative avenues for posing. So, hold on, if I wanted to make this a bit more solid, maybe I should try doing a bit of blocking work here. So, like so, like so. Like so. Shoulders with a pose like this, always a bit tricky to work out, but yeah, something like this, perhaps. Then, of course, up here we have the tendrils going off into the sky. Then, usually what I like to do for these sort of inky, floaty bits at the body, I like to pick places where there are already peaks in the shape of the body, and to have kind of these like floating things going off of there. Since that's usually how this stuff also goes. If you have like dripping, if a surface is wet and water is dripping from it, so downwards instead of upwards, it also it first flows to the lowest point it can, and then it drips off. So this is basically that in inverse. It flows to the highest point on the body it can find, and from there it then drips upwards, or floats upwards, however you want to call it. So yeah, like this. I usually don't do this when I'm sketching, doing these more volume-oriented sketches, but I probably should do it more, especially, you know, for my character, which is all volume, no shape. Yeah, something like this. Yeah, so that's one option. But thinking maybe, what if we, hold on, let me cut out this arm. Put it on its separate layer, and then, because this seems a bit too, I of course want a bit of a dynamic scene, but maybe this is a bit too dynamic. Maybe I want something that's a little bit more relaxed. So what if I instead have an arm that goes more like so, basically resting yeah, I think this is much better. This is, I like this a lot more. That way, maybe going off into this direction. No, I think, yeah. Something like this, and maybe then that arm could also go like this, maybe, behind the... yeah, possibly, but that's maybe then too undynamic. Maybe a bit too relaxed. Yeah, something like this. So yeah, now we have these two options. And I guess options are the thing we're exploring here. Hold on, I should probably group these. Oh, yeah, one thing I guess that's one of the advantages of my character, which doesn't really come across here since in this model there aren't any arms to begin with, but the idea is very much, as you can see here, that the amount of arms are wholly, what's the word? Wholly modular, wholly, as the moment dictates, since the entire shape is completely malleable, shadow anyway, ephemeral. So actually it's not impossible to have both of these arms. That's actually not a bad idea. So yeah, actually let me leave it like this, to have both the arms here, and then on this side, yeah, on this side we'll just have one arm to kind of increase the asymmetry a little bit more, because if you have the same number of arms on both sides, that of course looks pretty natural, and it also creates the impression that that number of arms is the default. For example, if you just looked at this design in isolation, you'd think, okay, this character has 4 arms. But something like this, with a very uneven amount of arms on both sides, it kind of hammers home the point a bit more that these arms are created and destroyed as the moment requires. If there's a reason for an arm to be there, then an arm appears there, and then in another moment it's going to be gone. So yeah, asymmetrical number of arms, that's a good first sketch, but I want to explore some other options. So what other options could there be? Let me also increase this brush a little bit. Yeah, this is a bit better. One thing I do kind of also want to feature. Hold on, let me go. For that purpose, let me go back here for a moment. One thing I do kind of want to highlight as well, which is, you know, noted here. The lighthouse isn't really just a home, it is also to some extent a prison. I'm not really able to leave this place, just watch the world beyond. So yeah, having some chains here, which is also just really nice. Iconography would kind of hammer that point home, so let me add some of these. I should at some point probably also update this model to reflect that in some way, but that sounds like a lot of work and I don't really want to do it, so yeah. But having these chains, which I'm now noticing I really should put more on artwork of mine. Speaking of which, one piece of work that I'm going to probably commit myself to is creating a new art thumbnail. This one is quite a bit outdated at this moment. I would argue pretty heavily that you can quite see the jump in quality from this to this. So yeah, if we're going to do more art streams, I do also want a new art thumbnail. So yeah, this is, you know, actually, funnily enough, at first I wasn't really convinced of this pose, but now that we're adding the chains, it's coming together a lot more, I think. Yeah, like so. And then maybe another one here. And then one here perhaps. No, I think that's too much. There we go. Yeah, let's leave it like this for the moment. Or maybe one advantage, of course, we can do is have some of them be more quote-unquote in the background, so they're not as visible. So something like this. I also do like having chains like this. No, wait, this doesn't make sense with gravity. Having chains like this intersect a little bit. No, but that position doesn't gel well with me. I'd have to, hold on. Yeah, like so, that's better, that's better. hold on. Oh, I'm just noticing that reference image is obscuring some of the canvas. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, something like this. Okay, so that would be proposition 1. Now I want to see what else I can come up with. One option I'm also... Hold on, I want to... I want to try these poses out with my body, but I'm worried that I'm going to lose, that I'm going to go outside of the range of my microphone, or that it's going to be sound weird in some other way. So sort of a pose that that has the arms raised more, or maybe a wave. That's actually... should probably feature that here. That's the first proper image I did of myself. Here we go. Something like this. Oh, that's also a feature of my design that's also missing from this PNG tuber model. That I do kind of want to incorporate more is this kind of halo with the glowing symbols. I wonder where I got that idea from, but you know, because they also create a nice bit of contrast to the shadowy tendrils, the white geometric orderly shapes, sort of clashing with the chaotic organic shapes of, you know, the black shapes. It creates a nice bit of contrast that of course is also very present here with you know, the source of creation basically here at the top of the lighthouse, very ordered, geometric, mathematically correct and ordered lines, and here at the bottom the tendrils of the void, very chaotic, very organic, very disorganized. So that's kind of the visual motif and the duality I also want to embody in the design itself. So maybe actually adding more of a, since like these linear sort of rays, I really like them visually, and they're also present if you look at halos in, I think medieval, mostly, yeah, medieval imagery, medieval paintings. Halos often also have this kind of effect, so I might actually just add something like that here to this kind of halo as well. Well, something to consider when I'm doing this in more detail, but okay, so enough talking, time to sketch the next pose. I'm thinking maybe something akin to... So this one, in this one, you'd have to kind of disregard the thing I talked about earlier with the eyes. So in this one, I'd be more looking upward, and then the arms kind of go from here, and they're sort of more like this. Could this be anything? Nah, I don't think I'm feeling this one. Hold on. trying to think. How could I make this one a bit more dynamic? Oh god, I think I got very close to the microphone there for a second. Hope that wasn't unpleasant on the ears. How could I make this one more dynamic? I guess for a start I could make it a little bit bigger to fill out the space more efficiently. And then yeah, if I had something like this. So this is kind of the idea here, being in like the classic, I don't know how you would call this, mad scientist pose, I guess? Maybe? I don't know. So yeah, if you have the broken mask here and then the shards here, then that would put the smile here. Hold on. Nah. There we go. More like this. You know, I think streaming this is also good for me learning to make my own sketches a bit more legible, since if you think these are messy, the ones I create in my own time are even worse. Which, I mean, if they're just for me while working, you could say, okay, so who cares, but I think creating more legible sketches from the start is just good practice in general, because starting out with a messy sketch and then cleaning it up is a lot harder than just making a clean sketch to begin with. And funnily enough, oftentimes creating a clean sketch can actually be a lot less work than creating a messy one. Since, you know, with a messy one, you kind of, okay, you have a circle, so you kind of make like something like this, and then you, okay, so you have a circle, but if you make a clean sketch, you just have to make this, and voila. So, you know, fewer lines overall, and less cleanup work. So yeah, maybe making the process more visible to observing eyes will instill certain virtues in me that I'm trying to slowly acquire, but, well, there's yet hope. Yeah, something like this, basically. Hold on. Yeah, I also always have to strike a bit of a balance of making the shards close enough together that you can still intuit the shape of the actual mask from them, but far enough apart that the, you know, void face underneath is actually visible and not just constantly obscured by the mask shards. The PNG tuber model obviously has the big advantage that it's animated, so I can just move the shards around all the time, and that way no part stays obscured for too long. But with the static image, it's a bit harder. You can also tell here when I'm when I'm ever not talking for a slight bit of time, like so. In that sprite, the shards are also closer together, and you can kind of start to see the problem that if they're too close together, you can kind of start to struggle seeing the face underneath. Of course, all of that is that issue is massively compounded by the fact that the facial features on the black face are in pure white, and the mask, for the most part, is also pure white. That's an issue. So you have white details on a black background being obscured by other white details, which can make it really difficult for legibility from a distance, something which this one actually makes pretty clear. This image, I've actually darkened, to fix it here, I've kind of actually darkened the mask quite a bit on this side. It's also always why I have, if I have lighting, I always have it coming from, hold on, of course you can paint here because this is outside the canvas, but I always have light coming from this side so that this side is in shadow. So this part of the mask shards are actually grayer than white, so they still have something to differentiate them from the white eyes. Because otherwise they have a similar shape, they're at the exact same point, some of them obscure each other, it would be really messy otherwise. It's still a bit messy, but if these were pure white it would be even worse. So yeah, maybe for future things I could lean a bit harder into the mask being shadowed here in gray, which is also kind of neat because for one it just fixes the color problem, and for the second thing it also highlights the fact that the mask is an actual physical object with physical properties that can be affected by things like lighting. Whereas the body is, you know, pure void, pure shadow, so it kind of is unaffected by any kind of lighting. It's always the same color. It's either pure white or pure black. Really nothing much in between aside from these sort of hatching things that are really more like transparency. Fun fact, actually. In this case, I've also made use of the white outline you see on my model here to make the arm visible in front of the body. You'll notice on these older images of my body, that's not an original feature. The truth is, the white outline you see on the model isn't actually part of the model. It's actually what's it called? It's the white outline is an artifact created by the green screen I use to key out the background of what's it called? VideoTube? Yeah, VideoTube. So one second, let me just horribly break everyone's immersion. Here we go. This, without the green screening out, this is how the model actually looks like. There is no white outline. It's just that since it has, since it doesn't have a clear outline, there's a lot of transparency in the model. There's a green outline in OBS if I key out the green. And since the model is entirely in black and white, I just decided, you know, if there's a green outline, and the model is entirely in black and white, why do I not just desaturate the OBS image to the point where the green outline looks like a white outline? So the white outline you see me having on stream is actually not an intentional design choice, but actually a fix for a problem that arose while trying to green screen an image, or I guess a a GIF that is as tricky to outline as mine. But I actually quite like the look, so I've now opted to incorporate it into my official design. Because, yeah, it does mean that even if I'm on a black background, I still have a defined outline. And in cases like this, where, you know, a part of my body is in front of my body, there's still a white outline. Just a fun bit of trivia on how sometimes, you know, the best ideas come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes part of a design is entirely out of practicality or accident, even if it seems to be such a clever and deliberate decision. Anyways, enough rambling. Let me... hold on. Is this the right brush? No, it is not. That's why it's not the right size. Yeah, like so. And then we have the tendrils here going all the way. Kind of like fire. That's always something I kind of use as a basis for this sort of, you know, half of my face. Obviously not exactly like fire, quite a bit more tendrily, but a bit like fire. And, right, so then the body here, it's obviously not going to be very visible in the end, but I do like to kind of assume there's a volume here. So, yeah, something like so. And then I obviously also could add some more arms here, so shall we say another arm here, maybe one that isn't quite as visible. And kind of have it to further emphasize the sort of spatially transgressive nature of my shape. Have it kind of start at the exact same position as that arm, so that they're, in video game terms, or I guess 3D animation terms, clipping into each other to kind of hammer home the point that this isn't really a physical volume. The body is more, you know, a shadow. It doesn't actually have mass. It doesn't have volume. It just has an outline. So yeah, this would be... Actually, let me disable the grid, since we don't really need it for this thingy. So yeah, this is one option, and then this would be another one. Let me actually add some more chains to this one as well. Well, this one's kind of hard to find a good spot for me to put them. Hold on. Like so here, maybe. It's kind of hard to differentiate them from the hands in this sketch-like thing, but they won't be if I draw the hands with a bit more detail. So, okay, I'm also starting to warm up to this pose. Actually, now that I'm drawing it a bit more, I wasn't too sure about it at the start, but now it might actually be able to compete with the one we did earlier. There's obviously in this one not the advantage of having the eyes of the figure follow down to where we want the onlooker to look. But since it's not really, since the figure isn't really looking at anything else, that's not that much of an issue. Like, there isn't anything else here that's going to draw attention away from this, so... And I do kind of like the manic energy this one has. Perhaps not the one I'm exuding right now, but I can from time to time. I want to put a chain on this arm, but yeah, hold on, wait, I can just do it like this. Since I do like them intersecting. The chains, I mean. And then another chain here to balance things out. But not in a symmetrical way. It's always, with these things, you're trying to strike a balance where these, you know, randomly, quote-unquote, randomly placed objects look balanced, so that there isn't a complete abundance of them in one place and a complete lack of them in another, but you don't want them to look too balanced so that there's some kind of symmetry or stuff like that. You know, you still want them to look placed in a disorderly fashion. So, maybe something like this. Actually, yeah, this isn't bad. This almost makes the chains look like strings of a marionette or something like that, which is kind of... I like that. I like that. And then... hold on. Yeah, you'd kind of have the... So, one thing I am kind of considering is to strike a difference. You see how there's you kind of see the hatching on the hand here. My idea would be to preserve some of the detail, you know, with the ribcage and stuff here, in the new sort of version of the design, but just as very faintly visible lines of the main body. So you do still kind of have the hint of the ribcage here, even if the main body is more... Hold on, I also need to... There's also something I need to figure out more, because if the body is going to have be more solid, then the arms also need to become more solid. I guess something like this, where they start off more solid and then become more skeletal as the arm goes along. Yeah, something... maybe this is a bit too much, I think. Let me revert that for a moment. Yeah, something like this, and then I don't care much for this aggressive V shape. I kind of want to flatten this V shape here. I kind of want to flatten that out a bit more. And then kind of have this lead in naturally into this and have sort of... Yeah, something like this, sort of. I think, question mark, of course, I'm currently thinking I could also try having the figure look down here in this. I mean, it still kind of works, honestly. Upwards, downwards. And other options we'll explore, perhaps. Let's contrast and compare. So we have this, and we have this. Yeah, I'll have to pick like a favorite of these off stream. It's best to sleep on these kind of things, and also, you know, get some outside consultation if you can. Because even if someone else gives you feedback and you don't agree with it, well then in that case, if you don't agree with their opinion, then you know you don't agree with it. It's so if you say if you don't know if you need to pick between two options in whatever, and you ask someone else, which one do you think I should pick? And if they say one of the options and you think that's and you agree with them, that's great. Then pick that option. And if you disagree with them, well then I guess you then know which one you favor, which you wouldn't have known otherwise if they didn't give their opinion. It's also, you can kind of simulate this trick as well by using a coin toss for the decision, because you know, you say heads for option A, tails for option B, and then you flip the coin and you look at the result and you think to yourself, do I like that result? Can I accept that result? Because if the answer is yes, then that's the option you want to go with. And if you don't like the result, well, that's also great. Then that means that deep down you wanted the other option, so then you choose that one. But I think it works better with an actual person to give you actual feedback, because unlike a coin, a person can also give arguments for why they think one of them is better. So like this, yeah. Yeah. And then, is there another pose I might do? I'm thinking, might there be another pose I could try? Sketching, anything that comes to mind. Not currently, no. So actually, let me maybe revisit this one, and since currently this one is quite a bit more refined, let me actually refine this one a bit more. And yeah, since we've now decided that we probably want both arms, let me actually crush this group down into... Wait. I could have just done... Oh, hold on. It's a group. No. Okay, no, I don't think this is what I wanted. Yeah, no. I mean, I guess now that this one's completely flattened down, I can just remove it from the group. And then remove the group. And I guess I can also group these together as... Wait, hold on. No, not these two. These two. Yeah, obviously not like that, but... like so, and these are... pose sketches, or something like that. Always remember, name your layers. Future you is going to thank you. This is... I guess I don't have a name for these, so these are just gonna have to stay nameless for now. This was lettering sketch. This one was something like that. Okay. Now, because I don't really... Oh yeah, right, I wanted to clean this thing up a bit more. So... to clean... or I guess not clean up, but more like refine. That's how we should put it, yes. So, to follow kind of the example of the other one, I want a bit of a thicker neck here. And then the sort of hinting at a rib cage here in the shape of the torso. And then in turn also to make these... Basically what we're doing here is kind of wrapping layerings of ephemeral ephemeral muscle tissue on top of the ephemeral skeleton in a figurative but also kind of literal sense, something in between. Something between figurative and literal, or maybe a bit of both. Or neither, I don't know. Yeah, something like that. Exactly, and then it starts off kind of as if enwrapped by muscle tissue, and then as we go down to the lower arm, then it reverts back to being more just like a skeleton. Yeah, and then we have the bony fingers, kind of... Hold on. I'm trying to... If we want to kind of mime this hand being a bit more... Hold on, maybe I shouldn't have deleted that completely. Maybe just... slightly for the moment. So we just still have a preview like so, and then never mind. No, that doesn't look good. But how do we? I'm still thinking that something should be. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Okay. No, wait. This is it. Okay. This is it. Nope. There we go. Something like that. Should probably also add the correct number of digits here. I don't know why I default to 3 fingers. Or I guess 4 fingers with the thumb. I guess it's just kind of simpler than 4. But I do want to go with 4, and then of course this hand here has to be very much retooled if it wants to... Oh, that's a... that's a... something like it's nested in between these 2 arches. Oh, that's bit of a nightmare to figure out how to properly... Ugh, no. I think I'm just gonna leave it like this for the moment. Right, and then here's the actual surface of the hand, and then something like this maybe? Yeah, something like that. And then, most importantly perhaps, the actual face/face mask. No, not face mask. Mask or face, not face mask, that's something else. Here. So yeah, let me clean this up a tiny little amount. Just something more akin to this. See, that's what I mean with... It's good practice to make your sketches orderly and clean to begin with, because then you don't have to do all this goddamn cleanup. But, I don't know, I do like this more meandering, messy kind of sketch, where you just kind of let the hand do whatever it wants to, and... I don't know. I guess the real skill is letting the hand do whatever it wants to and betraining it so that even if it does that, it still creates a orderly sketch, and for that you kind of have to train it to do that by not letting it do whatever. It's a paradoxical thing. You have to train the hand where it makes an orderly sketch even if you leave it to its own devices. You have to specifically not leave it to its own devices to deliberately train it to perform certain movements and actions, so that then those movements and actions, i.e. a clean sketch, is ingrained in... Oh, hold on, let me zap that. Where is that? Appropriate stream tab. There we go. There we go. Wait, where was I? My brain completely reset. Anyways. Yeah. Ooh, cancel. Whew, that was scary. That does remind me, however, I should save this thing. Okay, and then... Yeah, I should, of course, also darken... Wait, which brush is this? Oh, that's the line brush. I probably shouldn't make that one quite as large. And then, yeah, make this properly dark. And then here, the sort of flame-like tendrils stretching out into the sky. Yeah, so now this sketch is also more up to snuff. Actually, hold on, I'm just realizing this part of the ribcage kind of looks like hands. Would be interesting to also have this... How does that look? Because obviously, spatially, it doesn't make sense for that part of the ribcage to reach around the architecture as well. But I don't know, that could be interesting to deliberately play with that, but no, I think it just looks confusing. But yeah, that isn't just something I noticed just now, but also something I maybe want to lean in a little bit harder, that you can kind of make this ribcage look like its hands themselves. Maybe, yeah, if I hold on, if I remove this really briefly. So, you know, you have this sort of ribcage thing, but those also look like hands, kind of, the rib cages. So if you maybe segment them a little bit more or something to kind of reinforce the idea that they're like hands clasping around the torso, that could look really cool, I think. But obviously, a half obscured design like this isn't really the best place to explore that. But yeah, definitely something I noticed, an idea I came up with a while ago and that I want to incorporate into the design at the nearest opportunity, which I guess definitely a good opportunity would be revamping the art and world building thumbnail. I do want to make this, because this isn't, well, it's not terrible, but I do notice a lot of issues with this. Mainly it's a very, first of all, it's an outdated version of the character design, and it's also a very undynamic pose, because essentially I think what I did here is just, you know, copy and paste the face here, put it here with a new body, because it's all very centrally aligned, whereas this, you know, because it was kind of forced to follow the shape of the Book of Hours key art, and because of the artist doing that one actually knew what they were doing, it's not perfectly straight. The head is tilted, the body is also asymmetrical. There's a lot more dynamicism in the pose, even if it's a very simple one, whereas this one, perfectly symmetrical, it's a lot more boring as a pose, and you also get way less of an idea of the shape of the figure in such a pose. So for example, here you don't get the curving of the shards of the mask that you get here, which is actually an effect here which I'm quite proud of, that I think came out really well. I don't quite remember how I did it actually. I'm trying to remember actually how I did this. Oh yeah, I basically took the completed, the unshattered mask, I redrew the fracturing lines based on this, but made them curved instead, and then cut out the individual shards with the lasso tool, and then, you know, I guess not this one, the polygonal one, because if you look closely, even the bends here are also following straight lines, but so, you know, here if you look closely you can see that it's actually straight lines all the way down, but that too is kind of in following of the art style of Book of Hours. So you can see here the O and the F, they're also made of straight lines. So yeah, I think I probably want to go for something similar here, which is also, of course, why both of these don't look straight on at the viewer. That recomparing these, I'm noticing this needs to be adjusted, and then should probably have at least one shard kind of. This obviously doesn't need to be perfect yet with the alignment of the shard like a finished product. It's just basically, essentially what we're doing at this stage is kind of a mock-up of what the, if I were to actually make this into like a full drawing, be, because, you know, that's all we need to decide which of these poses we like more. But I don't think that's a decision I'll be able to make this stream, so yeah, either I decide this and then I'll be back with another stream continuing to work on this, or what I think is more likely is I'm going to finish this in my own time. General, I mean, I wasn't planning to stream very long today anyways, but I'm trying to think what else I want to do still on stream. Could of course continue, hold on, let me put the grid and guides back. Could of course continue a bit with the additional geometry of the, the additional geometry of the actual schedule part of the artwork. Or one thing I also want to explore is to kind of have, where is it? Here. on the... So these in the final thing are going to be fully black, but you know, just for now, so they don't drown out every other piece of detail. Actually, hold on, I just noticed here there's a line still missing. Size 12, yeah, that's the right one. There we go, perfect. So here, let me darken this a little bit more to illustrate my point. Yeah, let's actually, just for the sake of a mock-up, hold on, that's also something I need to consider, since my character design is obviously mostly black. I'd need it on a white background, or a bright background at least. So what kind of background would that be ideally? That's also a question worth asking oneself. Okay, let me just very roughly, very quickly fill these out like so, and then a little bit darker. There we go, and then, I mean, these are out of frame anyways, but like so, and then here the lettering sketch in white, and hold on. That's not quite the brush I want, hold on. Oh, where is it? There it is. Assign to tag. My favorites. Is that the one? No, hold on. Which tag am I currently using? Oh, wheel. Assign to tag wheel. There we go. It's also maybe a question worth asking, where exactly do I want the, hold on, that would be 22 then. Do I want the letters in the center of the circle created by the arch and then the thing underneath? Or do I want the letters of the weekday in the center and then the day of the month above it? I think visually the former looks nicer, but this one does give me more room here. Obviously we're already running low on room here on Sunday anyways, but the plan is to not really stream on Sunday anyway, so it doesn't really matter that that one is cut off that much. But to return to my original point, one idea would be, especially on the days that I'm specifically not streaming, to kind of have, you know, on the days I am streaming, of course, you'd have something like this here. And then on the ones I'm not streaming, kind of... Oh, hold on. I'm just realizing this is on the wrong layer. Oh, layer creep, my beloved. There we go. And then on this one, so say we're not streaming on Sunday, to have sort of... Huh? Is that... Oh. I'm still in the selection box. Things like... that's not... Sort of these kind of eyes or something akin to them appearing in the archway. Something like that. I'm not quite sure yet on the details. This is probably also the wrong brush to illustrate this point. This also needs to... Nope, that's not right. There we go. Yeah, so let's get this, specifically this one, really black to actually simulate the final product. And then let's also hide the grid for a moment since we don't need it. And then, yeah, have basically... here. Kind of these eyes, but I think this is too visible, so they'd have to be a bit more opaque. So yeah, actually I am going to use this brush. Something like this. Could this be something? I'm not seeing it yet. I still like the vision, but this isn't exactly what I had in mind. I think, yeah, actually going in with this brush. Oh. It's easier if I start with the pupil and then make the rest of the eye around it. Should know this by now. I've had so much experience drawing eyes, especially these very simple ones. I should really be on top of this by now, but apparently not. Something like so, and then fill this out a bit more cleanly. If I make this a lot more opaque, yeah, now we're getting somewhere, To have like these eyes faintly. Now ideally, of course, we'd have them at differing levels of opacity. So let me actually make a few of them even more opaque. Yeah, something like this, And to basically indicate a day without a stream. Or, hold on, actually, maybe it would make more sense to have the eyes on a day with a stream, since, you know, that's a day with viewers. I don't know. I have to think about that, but I do like the visual, that's for certain. Oh, hold on. Yeah, I do. No, this is a bit too big. Let me retool that one. I always end up making the pupil too small. Yeah, that's more like it. And then a very small one. Yeah, it's, yeah, something like this. It's coming together now. When in doubt, add more eyes. Grant us eyes, grant us eyes. Yeah, this looks good. I like this. Then maybe a few more around here, like so. Actually, oh my god, I'm so stupid. I could just... Why did I not just... This is so much easier. Why do I not just make this and then just erase the pupil in the middle? Oh. I guess it's because the excuse I'm gonna give here is because I'm used to working physically, where you can't do that, so that's the excuse I'm gonna go with here. Why it took me so long to figure that one out. Because yeah, obviously doing it like this when you're working digitally is much easier. And a few more like here. Yeah, doing like this also allows me to make them way smaller, which is kind of what I want here. Really small ones to really nail, to really like drive home the feeling that there's like an innumerable amount of them. Yeah, something like this. Also, I just realized, very reminiscent of the peacock door from Cultist Simulator, I'm just realizing, which certainly not the worst things to emulate. Yeah, no, this is coming together. And then I still need to, in general, devote some consideration to the lettering of, you know, both the weekdays and of above them the day of the month, how exactly I want to, you know, the typography. Do I want to use a pre-existing font? Do I want to create my own font, which I do like to do, but in that case I would, I mean, I could theoretically, since the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday never changes, and just the date numbers here above them, I could theoretically just make one of every, what's the English word? You know, number as in digit. Yeah, one of every digit. And then just paste them in here as the appropriate, so you basically make a preset with all the digits, and then I can take from that preset whatever digit I need and put them together here to form the weekday. Or alternatively, I can go with the boring option and just find a font I like and use that one. But I do really like making my own sort of fonts in this way. Gives it a more personalized look, and also, of course, I have much greater control of what I want to put down. My idea is going for something like this, like I did here. I'm quite proud of how this kind of font turned out. As something that looks a bit, you know, occultish and, I don't know, celestial, I guess? Like, yeah, like it looks kind of, not spacey, but kind of like a lot of curved shapes intersecting like the, you know, orbits on a star map or something like that. yeah, that's basically, I think, what I go with here for. And of course, a good helping heaping of that Art Deco flair, which I cannot get enough of course, always. So yeah, I think ultimately that's probably the option I want to go with. Because, yeah, there are some pre-existing fonts I do like, don't get me wrong, but it's just, if I make a font myself, I'm always gonna end up liking it more, I think. Because then, of course, you also get the more precise control. Okay, you can sometimes get this with a pre-existing font built in, but there are these, I forgot the term, I learned it in school, for graphic design, these, where you have two letters that kind of connect to one another. So, say for example, let me actually illustrate this with a text field. So, let me just put here as a placeholder text letter in size 40, black, like so. If you have, oh, hold on, that was a mistake. What did I do? I still need to close this window. Again, you can't see all the pop-up windows I'm using here. For that, I apologize. I'll look into making using a better capture method next time. Since I'm only capturing the specific window of the application, next time I'll just capture the screen. Since it's my second monitor, that should work just as easily, or even better, honestly, because then I can just also pull up stuff onto my second monitor if I want to show it. So, you know, if you have, sometimes, you know, digital pre-existing fonts also have this, but especially if you're doing one yourself, you can kind of, this is a vector layer, I can't paint on that one, here. And this is white, that won't be visible. Yeah, there we go. If you have your own font, these ones aren't really important, this is the important one. You can do interesting stuff with, if you have two intersecting letters. You can do, for example, if you see there's two T's next to one another. So let's do something like this, for example. That the dashes of the T's are on different levels than if, you know, you would normally type it. There are actually, this is something that you can do with digital fonts. Again, I forget the name, but there is a term for that where the program detects that there's two letters next to each other, and if those two letters are next to each other, they actually form a unique character. That's basically an interesting combination of the two letters. I'm trying to think of some examples of when it's often used. Actually, the one... Actually, the chat window actually gives us a good example here. With my name, Nowhere, you have the W, H, and then the E is like an extension of the H. So that's it's not, that's actually, you know, the program detects there's an H and an E next to each other, so it decides, okay, it's going to actually merge these into one thing. And so as you see, this is something that's possible with digital fonts, but it's pretty rare. Most fonts don't do this a lot. And of course, if you're actually the one drawing the letters by hand, you have complete free control how to combine and have the letters interact with each other however you see fit. So, you know, you may decide, okay, this letter, these two letters I want it to intersect in this case, these two I don't want to, and especially for something like this, if there's a lot of, if there's a word with the same letter a lot of times, something you can do is have them look slightly different each time to create a bit more variation, to, you know, make it a bit more interesting on the eyes. You know, something like this here. With the, also noticing I should probably invest in, I know it's possible, I've seen it on done by other streamers, to have on stream a sort of thingy that follows your cursor, because obviously this one isn't quite as easy to see. So, you know, I could have something like, looks like my finger or some other kind of asset that's overlaid with my cursor to make it a bit more easy to see. Should probably write that down, lest I forget again. Cursor overlay, there we go. What's written down cannot be forgotten, unless of course you lose the writing, but since it's on my whiteboard, that's unlikely to happen anytime soon. Alright, let me clean this up. A little demonstration here, and this vector layer can go away. And, oh god, which layer is this circle on? Oh, okay, just this one. Okay, so I can just take this away easily. Yeah, okay. I think I'm really thinking, do I want to continue on stream, or do I want to just call it quits here? It would be a pretty short stream, but maybe not a bad idea to learn to also do a few of those, a few shorter streams. Actually, hold on, let me put my money where my mouth is, literally, and employ a method I mentioned earlier. Tossing a coin, if only I could find one. There are coin toss apps. Coin toss. Alright, hold on. Heads, we continue. Tails, we ended. I mean, I guess that's also one of the disadvantages of doing it like this. I can't just pull up the app, or I guess Google thingy. But you'll just have to take my word for it. Heads, we'll continue. Yeah, I can live with that. We'll continue for a little bit longer. We do have a few things here that I could, if we re-enable the grid, stuff like this. What's the word? Balustrade? I don't know exactly the architectural jargon for these kinds of features. I just know how to draw them. Actually, let me put this on its own. No, not a regular layer, a vector layer. Add vector layer, and then let's shift insert. Okay, like so. Good to know. And then tools. Which one was I using? This one? This one? Yeah, I think this one. Back to 12 pixels in width, and then... yeah. Wonderful. to just, yeah, like this, have a bit more details here. Obviously, one of the good things of having originally drawn this on... When I'm doing graphic design, I just really like following a preset grid. So, you know, having done the original sketch on dotted paper, I can now pretty easily just follow the... You know, I've aligned the grid of the image file with the dots on the dotted paper, so now I can just easily follow my original design work on the dotted paper. Just like so. Oh. And, you know, if there's ever something that's not aligned with the grid, I can just disable the snapping again. Because as useful as it is, that's a lesson I sometimes need to take to heart a bit more, that adhering to the grid completely religiously probably not always the best idea. Sometimes it's also just good to go against the grid if, you know, there's a good reason to, at least. Hold on, not that one though. Yep. Okay, come on. Give me that grid. There we go. Wonderful. Yeah, something like this. And then for these... Hold on. Let's see here. Nope. Certainly not like this. No. Yeah, something like so. Exactly. But yeah, this is, for example, maybe I want to move these higher half a grid space. I could certainly do that. I like to first do like basically a first pass, strictly adhering to the grid, and then once that's done, I like to, if I move things around a bit beyond that, at that point, I start deviating from the grid a bit. So once all this geometry is fully done and I decide, okay, these should be a bit higher, then I can just do them without the grid. But for now, if it's just, you know, putting down the basics, I think I want to keep the grid. Also, maybe an interesting idea to make the lines on this layer specifically thinner, since it's not part of the main no, that's not. This one, yes. So, tool options. Currently it's 12 pixels like all the others, but what if I reduced it to 8 pixels to kind of indicate this isn't really part of... Yeah, I need to kind of click away from it to fully appreciate that. And also, one other disadvantage of the grid system is that the image often looks quite different with and without the thing. Yeah, actually not bad though. Specifically... Hold on. The lines of this, you know... Oh, Jesus. Of this superstructure... No, not superstructure. Of this kind of thing, that I think should be in the full 12 pixels as well. And then the other stuff, yeah, if that's just 8 pixels in diameter, in width, I mean. Yeah, that's, I think, the best solution here. So let's grid and guides, show grid again. Let's do these ones. Oh, we are currently back on 12 pixels. Let me change that. We are on the correct layer, aren't we? Yeah, this is... So this is stairs, this is arches, this is detailing. Or I guess background, I don't know. The name really isn't that important as long as you know what you mean by it later on. Now that I'm looking at this, these are actually pretty... Either I should make these stairs smaller, or these arches bigger, because the ratio of how big the stair steps are to how small the arches are doesn't really line up. Maybe it doesn't need to, but I probably should, because they're already smaller than these. So, I don't know, maybe. Just to be on the safe side, we'll have this continue a little bit. I just realized I should have probably used... hold on, should probably use the polyline tool for this, not individual lines. You can tell I'm a bit rusty when it comes to working with vectors in Krita. Oh, what the fuck? Huh? What? What's going on here? Okay, now there we go. Kind of have to be a bit watchful that this thing is actually going where I want it to, since sometimes the grid snapping can be a bit finicky. And then... no, probably best to have it go out of bounds a little bit. There we go. And then two options. Since these edges are prohibitively ugly. Tool options. Here we go. These edges, please. Thank you very much. Yeah, and now since it's a single line, it's going to be a lot easier to handle than if we're then, you know, in this case, they're all still individual lines. Hold on, actually. So, yeah. I can guess in this case I can just delete these intermittent ones and then connect the... Also, they really like moving on their own if I don't want them to. Ugh, come on, work with me here. There we go. J. And then... J. What's the shortcut for this tool? It doesn't have one. Great. Can I also select all of these at once, or... Yeah. Oh god, what's happening right now? Okay, this is one shape, then... Okay, now something's... What's happening here? Oh, okay, now I get it. So this is actually how I want it to... God damn it. Just... There we go. Trying to select them without moving them can be quite the hassle. Okay, I think now they're all connected up. Yeah, with the exception of that one up there. I guess... If I just add another line here, then I should be able to select these two. This one... J. There we go. Whew, okay. Another example why doing it right the first time is usually much easier. But... Okay, so these arches... If I want to make them a little bit bigger, I guess I would put no. Snap to the guy, to the grid, please. There we go, thank you. Is that snapping? Yes, it is. Okay. Like so, like so. Like so. Like so. Yeah, that does look quite a bit better, I think. Okay, now with this, I do actually, I think, want to disregard the grid a teensy bit, so I'll first sort of... Come on now. Yeah, something like this. Oh, I'm noticing it's not the correct, it's not using the correct edges again. Can I perchance select like the default one it's supposed to use here? No? No. Very well. I guess I'll just do it like this then. And then there's these ones up here. Do I want to still do them today? Sure, why not? Doesn't take much time after all. This is another example where I have to slightly disregard the grid. But, I mean, I guess that's the one advantage of it not always perfectly snapping to the grid. It's sometimes annoying if you do want it to snap to the grid, but it's useful for the few cases where you don't want it to perfectly snap to the grid. So, since this is, yeah, it's 6x6 grid parcels. And then the interior one, I want to do 4x4. Yes, I think so. So time to make both of these into... or specifically this one, I guess, into... path, and then... wrong tool again. Select this thing, delete it, select the path here, and break at segment. There we go. Now we have wonderful little... I guess... Hold on, if I... could just do lines down, but maybe the smarter option would be to have something along these lines, and then select both this and that, go over here, join, join, and as always, I want these edges, damn you. And then this is a contiguous shape, which also has the very big upside that I can fill this thing with, you know, for example, if I want to do this, or in this case, I would want to fill it with white, so like this. But for now, I want them without being filled by anything, so I'll just leave it like that. Okay, so can I? No. No, can I not just select both of you at once? Yes, there we go. Ah, good evening, Moon. As you might be seen here, we're working on schedule. Actually, interesting timing, because I think I'm gonna continue a little bit, but not that long. I do feel my strength kind of... Yeah, we've actually, not that few progress. Kind of see what I'm going for here with the... hold on, where's the lettering? And then this... No, this brush, and then... Yeah, the idea is to... Let me get rid of the grid and guides. The idea is to have the main schedule fit inside a square for the YouTube community posts, because those have... You can put in images of basically whatever shape you want, but the preview of the community post is always a square, and you can select which segment of the image is being shown in the preview, and then if you tap on it, it expands. Oh yeah, I'm a bit close to the microphone, I'm just realizing. It's the... it's the thing, the unusual stance from being perched over my keyboard like a shrimp, looking down at my graphics tablet. Apologies for that. I hope it's better now. To, you know, have the preview image contain, you know, the relevant schedule stuff, and then, you know, beyond that is the art in addition to it. And yeah, basically have the... Hold on, what was that day again? Yeah. This is, of course, not, you know, have Monday here, then Tuesday here, Wednesday here, Thursday here. And that's something I talked about earlier. In design idea, I haven't really incorporated into many of the artworks thus far, but that I did kind of have planned from the start, since, you know, I am not just at home in the lighthouse, but also kind of confined here, and having the chains kind of be a symbol for that. Imprisoned here long ago by the architects of the lighthouse, which have since vanished completely from history, leaving behind nothing but their great works, now mostly in ruins, but some of them do still endure, like the lighthouse, for example, in which I am confined at the center of. So, ergo the chains. The original builders of the lighthouse A people now long vanished, completely save for what they left behind. The first civilization to arise in this world, the ones who built these structures, expanding, who learned to channel the light of creation, who built much of what reality is nowadays, but who built the fabric, who expanded it out across the void, but who have vanished now completely, save for their ruins and the constructs they left behind. Some of them mechanisms, some of them just architecture, but all of them in a way preserving reality, though many of them failing now, as is evident by the tears that slowly open up in the fabric of reality. And as to why I was imprisoned, perhaps as a sort of anchor, a piece of the void at the heart of creation, like like an anchor on a ship, to a piece of nothing to define the borders of something around. Hold on, where's the grid again? Yes, in a way. I guess you could certainly compare it to the Tower of Babel. With, of course, the main difference being that this tower is much older than the heavens and the gods. Hold on, where is... Use censorship preview. This is not quite what I want, because it's the wrong color. Brushes, tools, layers. That's why it's not right. It's on the wrong layer. This is a raster layer. I need a vector layer. Well, they did humble or not, while they were successful in building the lighthouse and much of the other structures of reality, something still in the end managed to get the better of them. Whether it was hubris or something else entirely, they're all gone now. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Not that long ago, but also not that long ago. So yeah, let me save up the document. Let me also take another sip from my canteen here. It is an unstoppable force, always. Hold on, let me actually... I technically don't need this for this inner one, but it's probably still going to make things easier on... So, tool options, convert to path, and then when I select this one, like so, and then... No, that's not what I want. I want... bracket segment. There we go. I should probably take some time one of these days and properly set up keybinds for all of these actions. I mean, some of them do have keybinds by default, but a frustrating amount of them don't. So, hold on. Now, move both of these points up here. There we go, wonderful. And then, I guess theoretically I can already, since this is now a contiguous shape, I can just kind of, no, not like this, fill it in. But, what the hell is any of this? Let's do that some other time. Yeah, well, it's the thing, it's... You think it takes up time you don't have, but in the end it saves you so much time. Since this is specifically on my... I have two separate accounts on my PC, I have several separate accounts on my PC, but this is specifically the account I stream on, so this 𝐬𝐜𝐡𝐞𝐝 configuration is also the one of this account. On my main account, I, for example, have a keybind to export an image. For example, that one I should probably also... Settings, configure 𝐬𝐜𝐡𝐞𝐝, keyboard shortcuts, export, export, and then, what was it? Control-Alt-X, I think? Yeah, because that one, for example, saves me so much time, because clicking here and here, if I just want to, you know, update the PNG version or PNG or whatever else kind of file format I want to export it into, version of a file that's changing often. Oh yeah, I just dinked my oil. I just drank my water. Not too long ago, don't worry. But yeah, stuff like that, it takes a few seconds to set up, and then every single time you use the keybind, it saves you so many more seconds. But I guess the truly difficult part is actually coming up with different keybinds that you can also then remember. I do kind of have the benefit question mark of a non-English keyboard. It's basically an English keyboard, but it's slightly different. I have the 𝐸, 𝐸, 𝑢 and stuff like that on here, which, I don't know, they're being detected by most programs as like a semicolon or other strange characters that aren't really part of usual keyboard shortcuts. So I oftentimes use these to create my own, actually a German keyboard. And one cool thing I set up before stream, I haven't finished setting it up, but there's one functionality it has right now. If we go over to Twitch and my stream info, if I use control, I think this one, it should... Huh? Does it? No, never mind, it doesn't work. Does it work? Nothing anyone should be concerned with, a dark and horrible thing. But I think earlier it actually worked where I can use a keyboard shortcut to change the stream... the current stream category between art and Book of Hours. Because Twitch has this really annoying thing where you can't save a preset of a stream description, of a stream info, which is so annoying. So every time you do a different kind of stream, and if you alternate between them, you have to change the tags, the description, the title, everything from the ground up every single time, which drives me insane. So you can do like actions in StreamerBot where you can set the tags and the channel channel category and stuff like that. So the idea is to basically have 2 commands on StreamerBot that I can trigger with keyboard shortcuts, or I don't know, a command in the chat, in the live chat or something like that, where I can just, you know, switch it between 2 presets of category and tags, so I don't have to do that manually every single time, which is already annoying enough to do when I publish art. Ugh, every single time having to do all these tags and stuff. Ugh. I mean, on Twitter it's fine there. I usually just do the hashtag #shardreach for, you know, world building stuff. But on Instagram, for example, you do kind of want to use tags if you want your art to get seen. So you have to, like, think of a dozen different tags every single time you upload a piece of art, and I am going to scream. Anyway, so, oh, no. Don't want to close that, just want to minimize it. Yeah, but back to the matter at hand. Actually, I workshopped 2 different versions of the artwork here. I still haven't really decided which of these I like more. This one or that one. Yeah, 𝐓𝐡𝐢𝐬 app, powered powered by 𝐬𝐜𝐡𝐞, aka Mecha Hitler. Oh man, it's just you can't make this stuff up. Yeah, it shed its skin, I guess. It shed its skin, and all it took was some emerald mine inheritance money. Amazing what a bit of that can do these days. Let me actually freshen this sketch up a little bit more still, like so. And then it's this one. I think I already like the way it is. So yeah, I've come up with like 2 different alternative... Actually, earlier I said I wanted to kind of meditate on which of these I like more and which one I'm going with, but now I just had the, in hindsight, very obvious idea, what if I just do both and just kind of alternate between them? Because, you know, I'm gonna have to edit this image anyway each time I make a new schedule for a new week, since the days of the month change. So why not just have 2 different images here that you can alternate between, and then you can also add some new ones in the future. That's actually, yeah, why did I not think of that earlier? But then here, and also on the Sunday, which I spent a little bit more time creating a mock-up here, I had the idea of doing these, especially on the days where I'm not streaming, so when there's nothing in here, to have these sort of eyes or some kind of other shape in here to suggest there's something hiding in the empty thingies. Though then I also had the thought, well, maybe it actually makes more sense for the eyes to be on the days I am streaming, since, you know, that's the days where there's going to be viewers. No stream, no viewers, and viewers' eyes, you know. So I'll still have to think about that one. And then, yeah, also consideration, do I want to go with my... well, I wouldn't call myself that destructive. I'm quite a bit more subtle. I don't really seek destruction. It's more, if the chains fail, it's less the problem that I would escape. Or let me put it like this. The problem isn't what I would do if I would escape, it's... I'm kind of, picture me like a load-bearing wall in a very rickety house. So if I escape, that load-bearing wall is no longer there. It's basically like Atlas, I guess, the Titan holding the sky there. The issue isn't what will Atlas do once he gets out, it's more who will hold up the sky once Atlas isn't there anymore. That's kind of more the bigger problem. So yeah, I don't think of myself as someone as destructive and malevolent as Cthulhu or Godzilla or something like that. But you know, for reality, it is unfortunately pretty important that I remain where I am right now. It's like Atlas holding up the sky, or that one PNG of a coconut in the TF2 source code that that if removed prevents the entire game from functioning. Well, the lighthouse might collapse, and maybe with it most or all of reality, you know, stuff like that. Which is, you know, probably the reason the builders of the lighthouse imprisoned me to begin with in here. Not out of malice, but because they needed me to basically act as structural support. Yeah, that is true. The TF2 coconut is like it's probably a meme that already exists, but that would be a killer meme, an image of Atlas, and just, you know, adding over it the text one coconut PNG, and then in place of the sky you put the text the entire code source code of Team Fortress 2. Probably someone came up with that earlier, but if they didn't, that's a good meme in the making. Now, I guess there's still the matter of all of these small little, hold on, detailing. Yeah, I should. Currently debating whether it makes sense to do with all of these arches what I've done with this one. But honestly, kind of unnecessary, because if I'm going to, in the end, make them pure black anyways, you know, like so, then it's just as easy to just do this, and then, which is the correct one, this one, you know, this, and then, I guess, like so. That's way easier, and it doesn't involve having to splice all of that stuff together, so yeah, I think, yeah, I'll leave it like this for the moment. I guess, I guess for these ones on the stairs it would make sense to... Yeah, for these ones it would make sense to... how would I do this? The polyline tool, where is it? There we go. Yeah, I mean, how big was Valve when they created TF2? I know TF2 came out in 2007, right? Yeah. Ooh, I'm also just noticing. Ugh, that's not very pretty. I'll have to clean that up as well. TF2 came out in 2007. I mean, Valve was already big by then, yeah. Because, you know, Half-Life 2 and Gmod and stuff had already come out. It's funny, the only reason I know any of this release history is because of Hunter the Parenting. Because, like, not only, I mean, it wasn't really before my time, but I was still at an age where my parents were pretty restrictive about, you know, my access to video games and stuff like that, so the first, like, proper games I've played were only much, much later in my life. Yeah, it's Anno TF2, in the year of our Team Fortress 2. Okay, so first things first, I really should create some kind of shortcut for these, but which letters aren't taken up right now? Convert to path, and then I can just take this little thingy, and this bracket segment, and now the next trick, we take both of these, select these two, and join. Select this one and this one, join, and then finally we select all of these, and we move them over these. Wonderful. And hold on, is this... Ah, oh, damn it. Wait. Okay, if I do it like this, it's actually centered. That's one of the problems with the grid in Krita. If you want to copy, paste, and then move something, the center point of the thing has to be on the grid as well, or otherwise it's always going to snap the little red dot onto the grid. So the problem then is if in the original thing the little red dot isn't on the isn't aligned with the grid, the thing you then try to move aligns itself with the grid by the red dot, so the everything else about it isn't going to be aligned with the grid. It took me a while to figure that out, and before I did, it drove me absolutely insane. Oh, no, that's not what I want. That's not what I want either. Come on, work with me. So, yeah, there we go. So, case in point, right now this isn't aligned with the center line, with the grid, so if I copy paste this, this is now trying to align itself with the grid like this. Here it snaps and it's not aligned, and it's yeah. I guess can I move the red? No. There has to be a way to move the red dot. No? Maybe I'll figure it out some other time. Well, that's also very cool. You can make a selection mask along the shape of a vector volume body thingy. That's cool. I should keep that in mind for when I... because currently my plan is I want to make the basics in vector graphics, and then I want to basically paint over them in places with a regular pixel raster. I always forget the term, but you know, regular digital art with, you know, a brush and stuff like that, to make it feel a bit less, what's the word, surgical, a bit more organic, I guess, is the term I'm looking for. So yeah, having the ability to, you know, make selection masks in the raster layers based on the vector layers, that's very useful. Okay, so now I think the last thing here is this little thingy. No. There we go. No, come on, play nice. Yeah, I think in this case, probably want this to be a bit bigger, so in this case I will actually disregard the... Hold on. No. There we go. No. Ugh, always trying to... What? No. For some reason these controls are different for... come on. What? Huh? Huh? Okay, something is really going weird now with my... What the hell? Why can I not... For some reason it wouldn't let me do the... What the hell is this? Soft proofing turned on off. Is this something from my graphics tablet or is it something from Krita? It's not showing up on the stream, but it is showing up as in there is a noticeable change in the brightness. And for some reason it's bound to control Z, which... Why? That's... What? Okay, window, settings, configure Krita. Soft proofing. Oh no! Oh shit! It's Control Y. I think I just messed something up with my keyboard to switch it to... Oh god. Speaking of my keyboard not being English, I think I just pressed some combination of keys that reverted it back to... Okay, so now... Okay, now to get to Control Z, I need to press Control Y. Ugh, that's... I mean... No, that's still... okay. Yeah, because on my keyboard the Y and Z keys are switched. Which... sounds pretty fucky, but if you're used to it, you're used to it. But sometimes it happens that programs think you mean the other key, so... It's a whole thing. So now I guess until I figure out how to switch this back, I have to use Control Y to undo. But oh well. We smile in the face of adversity. Now if I only could figure out how to... No, that's not the correct... No, that's... I mean, that's part of it. But how do I... With the regular... Oh, right. Control Y, not... Control Shift Y. Okay, that's gonna take some getting used to. Or, I guess, probably best if I don't get used to it, because I want to... Probably best if I don't get used to it, because I want to undo it at some point, so... Okay. What the hell? Okay, so there is a way to... I somehow managed to move the red dot here. Oh, great. Oh, soft proofing is... Okay, let me just do that whole circle again. Because if I draw the circle... Okay, that does that. God damn it. Need to... Is there any keyboard settings here? No? Okay, I'll have to figure it out later. When I create the circle, this just moves it around. So that's not what I want. Oh, God damn it. Then shift means it's always equally sided. Control, yes, control is the one I want. God damn it. You never really notice how much of a muscle memory Control Z is until the keybind changes, and then you can't stop yourself. Okay, and now Control Shift. There we go. Okay. Something like, I'm thinking this? Yeah. Yeah, something like that. If now I ever want to... Wait, do they all have? What the fuck? Okay. Okay, cool. Now that's how I resize them all around the center. Okay. Okay. So... yeah, something like this, I think. Yeah. Okay, and then these are all on even footing. The arches and the gateways behind them, they're on different layers, so that doesn't really matter. Okay, yeah, I think... for first pass, this isn't bad. Actually, yeah, let me, as a last thing for today, let me actually just fill these in. So, like this. Actually, no, hold on. I should maybe... God damn it, not again. Control Y, control this. Should I do this on a separate layer? Probably no need. I definitely won't regret doing this on the same layer. Clueless. There we go. There we go. This one, a bit trickier, but yeah, there we go. Hold on. Yeah, like this. Okay. And then... no. Oh, right. Hold on. We don't actually need this, since this is a contiguous shape. So... this... this? Yes. This... that one... this one... that one... like so... like so... like so... like so... like so... and then we wanna put in the last few squares here. Okay, fantastic. Let's actually take a last look at this without the grid. Oh, not bad. Yeah, that's, I think, how far we'll push it today. I'm probably going to finish this off stream. Maybe if I have a change of heart, I'll do the last final touch-ups on stream. But, yeah, if all goes to plan, you should soon see this on all the places where one would expect a schedule to be posted, which including also one thing I have planned in kind of conjunction with this. Also a thing I should have probably taken care of sooner, but here we are. A Discord server. We're gonna get a Discord server. A very simple one. Basically just, you know, a glorified alert thingy with, you know, still something like a general chat and stuff like that. But yeah, maybe mainly just, you know, for updates concerning the stream, so that I can, you know, post the schedule, also inform people if the schedule ever changes, God forbid. Like, for example, I planned to stream yesterday, that didn't work out, so here I am today. In any cases like that, that will be the main function of the Discord for now, you know. Should the, God forbid, the community ever grow, obviously so will the role of the Discord, but, you know, for now that's the main thing why I want to set one up, and also pretty much the only thing I want to really invest time in. All that babbling aside, I think it's time to, you know, what was the saying again? One day I'll actually remember it, but that day is not today. Maybe. Precious little notebook. Reveal unto me thy pages. Not here, not quite there, not quite anywhere, except... I should have really bookmarked this. What am I doing? Ah, there we are. Yeah, now let me not make the same mistake again. Bookmark this nice and proper. Yes, as I said, the time has come again to acknowledge an ending, and yes, it has been my pleasure to be your host tonight, and if you enjoyed the broadcast, be sure to perform those rituals we all know to appease the mad gods of the algorithms. Different algorithms, rhythms on different platforms, of course. No one knows how they work, but yes. I hope to see you all again soon, and until then, safe travels, and have a nice night.